my name is Jeanette and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. So today I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in February. And at this particular moment, I am regretting not doing a mid-month wrap-up because I have to go back and really think about the books that I read at the beginning of the month. However, I did do 2 vlogs during the month, so a lot of the books that I read are already in those vlogs. So I'm going to mention them, but really my full thoughts are in those videos, which will be linked below. So overall, I read 11 books in the month of February, but it wasn't the greatest month. 11 sounds great, but I only had 1 5-star read. I had 4 4 stars, 4 3 stars, and 2 2 stars. And those 2 2 stars, I probably should have just DNF'd them, but I kept going for 2 different reasons. And also because I'm not great at DNFing books, I start them, I want to continue because I have hopes that they will get better. And yeah, or for other reasons, which we will get to when I talk about the actual books. So we are going to start with what I most recently finished and then work our way back to the beginning of the month. The last book that I read was An Overdue Match by Sarah Monzon. I had an advanced reader copy of this book, but it is officially out. It came out February the 18th, and it is book 1 of a new series called Checking Out Love. And the main character is Evangeline, who is a librarian in a small town. And Ty, I think is how you say his name, who is a tattoo artist and is the cousin to Haley, who Evangeline works with at the library. So that is how the two initially meet. Evangeline is from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and because of health struggles, she has experienced hair loss due to Appalachia. That doesn't sound right. Appalachia? Yeah, an autoimmune disease, and she's losing her hair. She was engaged and her fiance broke up with her due to her health struggles, and then she had issues in town with people staring at her and stuff, so she moved to this small community to kind of restart and build up. She's kind of given up on love and decides to become a matchmaker for library patrons based on their checkout history. Now, thankfully, this storyline is not a huge storyline in the story. We see her attempt 1 or 2, but it doesn't become huge. She is invading people's privacy, and that wasn't a fan there. So because of that, Ty is interested in her, not because of that. Ty is interested in her and finds out that she is attempting this matchmaking. However, she is new to the community and doesn't know the history of people or who's connected to who, things like that. So he decides to make an arrangement with her for her to date him, and he will assist her with providing information about the people she's interested in matchmaking. He has another motive, of course, because he is interested in her. There are some really funny moments throughout this story, and Ty is a wonderful character. He has a wonderful heart, and he knows that Evangeline is going through some health struggles and really knows that her self-confidence has really taken a hit, but he doesn't know the background of it. And he is just determined to prove to her that she is beautiful and people will love her for who she is. And yes, she must have had a bad experience in the past. The thing I really liked about this book is there is no third act breakup between the couple. And I just really like that because it was just really sweet and kept going, and Evangeline builds her self-confidence, and the two of them together were wonderful. The one issue that I had with this book is he's a tattoo artist, and the whole storyline is what's on the outside doesn't mean what's on the inside, which I really liked that storyline of it. Just because he comes across as a bad boy doesn't mean he's completely bad, right? He has a great heart. It's just tattoos are really presented as very attractive in the story, and I don't get that. And so I didn't see that side of it, so that just took me out of the story every time it was mentioned, and yeah. But I will be continuing this series because I'm really interested in following Haley, and I understand that she's the main character in book 2. And I really liked Evangeline and Ty. I just didn't get the whole storyline at points. But I gave this book a 4-star. I really enjoyed it, and it was a fun read. Okay, then we've got Twilight at Mornington Cross. Mornington Cross. I always get this name wrong. We have a street in town that's called Mornington, and so every time I see this, that's what comes out of my mind. But it's Moorington. Okay, so this one is set in England in 1819, and we are following, I was going to call her Abigail, but that's the author. We are following Amelia, who is a young widow, but shortly after her wedding, her husband shipped her off to this hospital because she has a sleeping disorder. And then he was killed or died. I don't think he was killed. I think he just died. And so now she's been at this hospital for 2 years working with this doctor who's a mesmeric therapist. I'm not exactly sure. There are 2 other patients at the hospital. And the doctor tells her that he has put in the will that his entire estate will go to her if she marries one of 2 gentlemen. She meets the 2 gentlemen because the doctor wants her to meet these people, but she has to marry within 30 days of him dying. The doctor dies. Some people think that it's suicide, and some people think that it was murder. So Abigail and the doctor's lawyer team up together to try to figure out what is going on, what is the answer. And supposedly Abigail is trying to get to know these 2 men as well. The lawyer is not an option. And I did not connect with any of these characters in the story. I found it moved very slow. This is one that I probably should have DNF'd, but I'd heard people had really enjoyed it. And the premise of Abigail being torn between a guy that is not even an option and the 2 gentlemen, like who does she choose? How does she get out of this will arrangement and stuff? And so that kept me intrigued, but I found the story moved so slow. And I just didn't connect with any of the characters. And then near the end, all of a sudden there's a big info dump that happens. Pieces are revealed. Everything happens at once. And it was just like the little reveals could have happened throughout the story with them piecing the clues together rather than them discovering everything at once. I did not connect with this story. Okay, and then we have Dawn's Light by Terri Blackstock. This is book number 4 of the Restoration series, and I can't believe I waited so long to finish the series. I read books 1, 2, and 3 probably within a couple months of each other last year, like probably last summer, I want to say. And then I waited till February to read this book. So we pick up with the Branning family again, who we've been following throughout the whole series, and they are dealing with the blackout of the world. And it's now been a year since that blackout happened, and one of the members of the Branning family witnesses a murder and is threatened by the murderer, so they do not tell their family, and things kind of kick off from there. Danger happens. There are some really scary moments that I was really worried about certain characters, and a character does die in this one who we have gotten to know quite a bit, so that is a really sad moment in it. The Branning family is really being tested with their faith, but then there's also relationship struggles that happen. An ex-boyfriend comes back and wants to get together, but the woman has moved on with somebody else, and they are much better matched than the ex-boyfriend. But which one is she going to choose? Which one of the boys, guys, men? So yeah, there's a lot that happens in this book. Then there is a strong faith message shared, lots of scripture quoted, and the children's play that presents the Bible. Wow, what an emotional scene. Like, I loved this story, and I wish I had read it closer together. This is a series that you really need to read back to back. Like, you can't just pick up one because this story continues throughout the series. So you really need to start the series at the beginning. But wow, I loved it. And it is so, like, the emotions, that the way people react to different events, so realistic. So realistic. So this was my 5-star of the month. Okay, then I read The Marriage Wish by Dee Henderson. This, I found out, was Dee's very first novel she ever wrote. It came out in 1998, and it is a contemporary romance with a little bit of suspense in, but really it's a contemporary romance. We are following Jennifer, who has lost her husband and a baby girl a few years ago, and she's still dealing with the grief of that. Then we follow Scott, who has just celebrated his 38th birthday, and he just wants a family. He is a successful man in a business, and he's just looking for a wife to start a family. The two end up meeting, and obviously they're in completely different paths of life and just different plans for the future. So there is an attraction between the two, but because of what Jennifer is dealing with, she does not want to start anything up and is hesitant and just dealing with the fear of moving forward. And Scott was very, very patient with Jennifer. At times, Scott almost felt too perfect because he just reacted wonderful to Jennifer all the time. Scott has a strong faith, and Jennifer was a Christian, but is really struggling with her faith due to the loss of her husband and daughter. And so, yeah, it is just a short, it's not a very long story, it's 240 pages maybe, but it really deals with grief and fear and kind of moving forward, and how do you do that? The thing that really kind of bothered me with this story, there was two things that really bothered me with this story, is there is this suspense element that's added near the very end, and it kind of comes out of nowhere, and then it's never really fully fleshed out. It happens, and then a few months pass, and we are kind of given a recap of what happened in those months, but it could have been fleshed out a lot more. It just felt like it was thrown in there for no particular reason. I mean, I'm sure there was a reason, but yeah. And then the epilogue just ruined the book for me, because something's revealed in the epilogue that the whole story was kind of like, this is not going to happen, completely against it, and then all of a sudden in the epilogue it's happened. I was like, I don't like that. So it was a 3-star for me. Then I continued in the Anne of Green Gables series, and this is Anne of Avonlea by L.M. Montgomery. It is book 2 in the series. So now Anne is a teacher at the Avonlea school. So she is teaching some of the classmates that are like who were her fellow classmates when she was at the school. And then a couple new kids arrive, so we get to know them. And Anne and Marilla take in 6-year-old twins, Davy and Dora, after their mother has passed away. And Davy is a wild child. Like, he makes Anne look innocent as a child. And then Dora is a total innocent child. You wouldn't even know she's there. She's just quiet, doing everything she's told. And then Davy just takes all the scene. And then we have Paul, who is one of the students. And what annoyed me about this book, I didn't like Davy to begin with, and I felt like Marilla and Anne were punishing Davy, but then they were also kind of like praising Davy almost and forgetting about Dora, so that kind of bothered me. But also, Anne compares Davy to Paul a lot. And I did not like that. Don't compare a child to another child. And I also did not like that Diana and Gilbert didn't play a bigger role in this story. I just wish Anne had spent more time with them. They were there, they just weren't there all the time. Which I understand. I mean, Gilbert was off teaching at another, but Diana was in the classroom with her, still living like the next farm over. I don't know why they didn't spend more time together. So this was not a favorite. However, the ending gave me hope for the future. And so I'm going to be continuing the series, but this just wasn't my favorite of the series. Okay, Love on Demand by Karen Witemeyer. This is a novella that I read to continue working on Karen's backlist. And it is a historical romance set in 1868. And we are following Dr. Jacob Sadler and Molly Tate. So this is a novella, 130 pages, so we get to know these characters very quickly. We know that Jacob is coming back to town as the doctor. He's been away for a number of years, and he has some history with the town, and as the story moves, we find out what that history is. Molly is in the town and happens to meet Jacob, and ends up working for Jacob as kind of his aide, nurse's aide almost, and find out that Jacob's history with the town connects with Molly's connection with the town. But the two have very different opinions about this person that they have in common, and can Molly convince Jacob that he is wrong about this person? I just really like the interaction of these two characters. It was a really fun read. It is a very quick romance that happens, but it is a fun story, and I was fully invested in these characters. Then we move on to The Burning of Rosemont Abbey. I read this in the Booktuber recommendation vlog, and this was recommended to me by Brittany Brings Books, and I did enjoy the story. I just didn't love the story. We are following Louisa, who is a twin and has an experience that something has happened to her twin brother, but they don't know what exactly. And the town feels that, or the evidence is pointing towards her twin has burnt down the abbey in town, and Louisa is determined that no, he did not do it, and is trying to prove that he didn't. And trying to figure out what actually happened to him, why has he disappeared all of a sudden, and what's going on. So I enjoyed following the mystery of it. What I didn't like was the romance that happened. It really felt like an enemies to lovers story, but it was like all of a sudden they were enemies, they were enemies, and then all of a sudden they had feelings for one another, and it was like, wait, what happened? And you never really saw their interaction and how the change happened. And they didn't really spend a lot of time together. So they supposedly were investigating this mystery together, but yet they never really seemed to be together. I think that's what took the story down for me. But it was very invested in Louisa and trying to figure out what was going on and which decision is she going to make. Is she going to keep her aunt and uncle happy? Or can she prove what happened to her twin is not what the town thinks? As I said, this one is in a vlog, so more thoughts are in that vlog. Also in that vlog is The Red Ribbon by Pepper Basham, which was recommended to me by Caitlin from Chronicles of a Book Nerd. This is a historical suspense set in Virginia in 1912, and it is part of the True Colors series, which is based on strange but true history, past events that maybe don't completely wrap up and are left with what really happened. And that's the way this book ended. So that I did not like, because I like to be wrapped up and not left questioning of what happened. And I also feel like a certain family in this book got targeted for no reason at all. Like, I don't really understand why the town kind of targeted them, or certain people in the town targeted this family. And yes, maybe they weren't all, like, they kind of had a bad side, but I don't think they deserved what they got. But I'd heard a lot about this book, and I mean, on back it talks about a massacre at a courthouse and kind of what led to that, and kind of who was responsible for that. Reading the book, it took a long time to get to the actual massacre at the courthouse happening. I just found it slow with a lot of build-up, and I'm like, okay, anytime now, kind of. So I didn't like that part because it took too long to get to what was supposed to be the main event of the book. I did enjoy the romance that happens throughout the story. I liked those two characters and kind of following, and I was like, okay, they're gonna be okay. Are they gonna be okay? Wait, what's happening now? Like, I really was invested in them. And I really liked the family that I felt was being targeted. So that kind of, I didn't like that side of it. But I do recommend this book. Okay, then throughout the month, I completed 2 more James Herriot books. So we have Vets Might Fly, which is book number 5. I didn't write down. Does it even say in here? I'm pretty sure this is book number 5. Then Vet in a Spin, which is book number 6. This one's first, then this one. I'm pretty sure, because I think my next book is book number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, no, 5 and 6. That's right. Okay, so in Vets Might Fly, James Herriot has just reported in London to be part of the Army RAF training for the World War, for the Second World War. And then, so he's going through the training in this book, but a lot of the book is flashbacks. He's remembering his vet days. He's just gotten married, so he's just left. Right? So he's kind of remembering what it was like in Derby in different cases. Then in Vet in a Spin, now he actually gets to get in a plane and continue his training and possibly fly for the war efforts. But again, we get a little bit of that, like we know what his first flight is like and some of that. But again, it's a lot of flashbacks to more cases that he worked, or yeah, I guess cases for a vet, yeah, that he worked and different things like that. I just expected a lot more of the RAF stuff in these two, but we do find out that he snuck off base to return home for his baby son's birth. And yeah, it was like, oh, little troublemaker there because he didn't have permission. So we do find out different little tidbits of his life, but there was a lot of practice, like his vet practice. And then there was some interesting stuff, especially in this one, about his service in the war. Maybe it wasn't what I expected it to be, but yeah. And I think at the end of this one, I'm pretty sure at the end of this one, he's now being released from service. So I'm pretty sure the next one, he's back completely, like he's in Derby again. We will find out when I continue the series. I really enjoyed listening to the audiobook with Christopher Timothy narrating. I don't think I would have enjoyed these stories as much if I had read them. Just listening to somebody else tell me the stories, I enjoyed it, but it also wasn't what I expected. Okay, my least favorite read of the month. The Italian Ballerina by Kristy Cambron. I just could not get into the story at all, and I should have DNF'd this book. But it was one of my 25 and 25 for my bingo board, so the only way to cross that number off is to actually read the book. So, I mean, maybe I could have pled with my BFF to pick a different book for me to replace this one, you know, plead a case, but I decided no, I'll continue. And again, because I'm not a big DNFer, I had hopes that it would get better. But I struggled so much with this story. So it is in, I want to say a dual timeline, but it's really 3 different timelines with 4 different characters. Yeah. So we are following this ballerina in the 1930s, 1940s, and a guy from the 1940s who is serving in the war, who is American. The ballerina is Italian, as per the title. Yeah, she's probably Italian. Anyways, it was the historical that really got to me in a way, because the timeline for the historical characters jumps. We have before the guy goes off to war, so when he's back in America, then he's in the war, then he's back in America, then he's in the war. And same with her. The war is going on, and then it's pre-war, and then it's war, and it jumped so much that I was like, wait, what? So I would just get like, okay, who are we following now? Where are we? Because they're not even in the same country for a lot of the book. And I'm just like, okay. So I would kind of, okay, I get to know where we are now. And then all of a sudden it switches to either back in time or forward in time. I get to know, and then it switches again. And it's different people each time. And I was like, I was so confused. And then with the present day timeline, we start in America, and then she travels to Italy, and we're wondering, I know how it connects with the American, but I didn't know how it connected with the Italian ballerina, and I was so confused. But then also her reasoning for going to Italy, I was like, wait, what? Like, this might be a spoiler, so I'll put spoiler here, I don't know, she is contacted by this Italian saying they are suing her for this suitcase that her grandfather had. And so she decides, I'm going to come and deliver it to you in person. Wait, somebody's suing you, but you're going to come out to them and stay at their place. And that, I'm like, why, what? Like, no. So yeah, that bothered me. And then just everything that built up, like, my favorite character was the male from World War II, the American. And following, like, getting to know him, I really liked. I just wish it hadn't jumped so much. I did not connect with the females at all, or the male in the present day. It was not for me. And I started the month with this book. So that did not start my month well. Yeah. Okay, so that is what I read in the month of February. I'm hoping I didn't miss any. Was that 11 books? I don't remember. As I said, the vlogs where I talk about my reads a little bit more in depth will be linked in the description below, so you can go back and check those out if you're interested in any more details of them. And I will say my favorite book of the month was Dawn's Light by Terri Blackstock, which is really not a surprise because Terri Blackstock is a favorite author, has been a favorite author for years. But I am surprised with how much I enjoyed this series, because for years I put off reading this series because it was like, I'm just not interested in that. I regret that now because I absolutely love this series. And this is one series I will be telling my mom to read. So Mom, you need to read this series, and I have all 4 books to give you to read. Okay, so please tell me what your favorite book from the month of February was. I would love to chat in the comments below. Have a great day. Bye.